I'm Laura Torres from Blue Star Careers. It's been an incredible year so far here at Blue Star Careers. And today we are kicking off a series of Blue Star Careers webinars where you, our audience, can actively engage and join the discussion. Please be sure that you are following up and meet me at the Blue Star Careers neighborhood as well as our Spouse virtual community. We have intensified and elevated, of course, crucial initiatives to benefit military spouse employment, from continuous military spouse employment research initiatives to additional programming, which we'll be discussing with you in just a few minutes, and officially kicking off our summer with special programming for diverse communities. So today we are officially announcing the kickoff of Verano Bilingue. And if you're not familiar what Verano Bilingue is, we're about to tell you. Verano Bilingue is powered by Comcast Military and is a series of professional development and networking opportunities for bilingual Hispanic, Latino, Latinx military spouses. To support the significant demand from employers and, of course, our diverse bilingual community, which is growing here within the military, this virtual summer programming offers the tools and resources to build our network and access employment opportunities while using bilingual skills, but also we're meeting and supporting the current workforce demand and our employer partners who are constantly seeking new talent. So why Verano Bilingue? Well, let's talk a little bit with three experts that are going to be here with us today to tell us a little bit more about why Verano Bilingue makes more sense. We have some intense programming that is going to be discussed with you towards the end. But please first tell me, where are you watching? Where I would love to be able to send you a shout out and let you know more about more personally, thank you, and make a note directly with you. Now, today we have three experts that will be sharing with us a little bit their own perspective why Verano Bilingue or bilingual talent. It's a crucial initiative here through Blue Star Careers. We have Carly Howell, Associate Director of Research here at Blue Star Families, and now a veteran Navy spouse. Carly is responsible for our annual military lifestyle survey and other focused research projects. And before joining Blue Star Families, she served in leadership roles and served nonprofits across the nonprofit sector, guiding programs designed to help individuals and families thrive. Then we also will be joined by Dali Rivera, a U.S. Army veteran, military spouse, and military caregiver. And then, of course, she's also the CEO and founder of Dali Talks, which is a series of anti-bullying training for parents, schools, and, of course, children. She is a community influencer in the Latino community and a member of the Amigos Networking Group, which is an external group that supports civilian life, but also resides in the East Coast with her veteran spouse. And now I encourage you, of course, to connect with Dali and continue to follow her work as she really empowers through and leads through advocacy by preventing bullying. Sonia Vasquez also will be here with us. She's also a bilingual military spouse, part of the Arizona Coalition for Military Families Be Connected. She's also an employer engagement coordinator, a skill bridge coordinator, and a military spouse lead and advocate. And previously, Sonia was our JEFA in one of our networking events and currently getting ready to PCS once again in less than 18 months. Wow, it's an intense panel here that, of course, they have very different but yet unique perspectives and in life situations. So with that, I'm just going to get us started. But I also would like to be able to remind you to please take the survey, toma la encuesta, and then it's also available in Spanish and in English. And then, of course, our jefa Carly will be here to tell us a little bit more why the survey matters. And we're going to be discussing with her directly all of the different data research points that we're going to talk about Verano Bilingue. So without further ado, let's get started. Thank you for joining us. Please continue to tell me where you're watching. I would love to be able to send you a shout out. Thank you so much for your support. so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule and survey outreach currently going on right now to break down more the findings about what it means in the Hispanic community and with our reach. But first of all, would you like to officially introduce yourself, your unique military connection?
Sure. Thank you, Laura. My name is Carly Howell. I am the Associate Director of Research here at Blue Star Families, and I am now the spouse of a veteran. My husband retired from the Navy last December.
Awesome. Congratulations. What does it feel like to be, separated from the retirement community? And I know this is not in our script, but I just wanted to put you out there because now I think we have right after you, we have our other guest and one still active duty. And then, of course, Dali and myself of a retiree. So how are you enjoying retire life?
Oh, to be honest, I love it. We love it. We love it as a family. We definitely miss some of the connection points that we had or some of knowing where everything was because we moved after my husband retired. We left the duty station we were at and moved back to our home of record, our state record, not our home of record. And but overall, we are trying to integrate ourselves into the community here and kind of develop the next phase of our life. But certainly grateful for my remote employment that was able to help us do those things.
Fantastic. So thank you so much for sharing a little bit about yourself. Now, let's switch gears here. We're here to announce, but also first, before announcing, of course, officially kicking off, announcing Verano Bilingue 2023. As you know, this is our third year conducting special programming activities for Latinx, Latinas, Hispanic, Latinos, and bilingual talent community within our Blue Star Careers community. I wanted to also pick your brain and more so than picking your brain, really get your perspective as a researcher and leading some of these initiatives. And based on the research that you have and the research team has been able to find, can you break it down for us and give us a little more perspective on how we can analyze these findings, but also put us to call to action for our community. So for instance, female, Hispanic, Latina military spouses have the worst earning outcomes of all military spouse groups, racially, ethnicity. We can earn less, approximately 66% in comparison to some of our U.S. medium other colleagues at the same level. So in your opinion, what programs across the military or what the military can do to advocate more based on these findings from our Blue Star Families research?
Certainly. So I would say that we definitely want the military to act and we want the military to support spouses, but we can't ask it only from them. So I think we need to ask our organizations and our employers kind of nationwide to look at themselves and look at their programming and look at their staff. And does it look similar to the military overall? Does it reflect who it is that serves our country? If it does, wonderful. They should be sharing their secrets and sharing how they built that organization or built those programs to resemble that with everybody else. There's definitely a need for success-based outcomes for people to follow. If it doesn't, we need people to take a look internally and say, we need to make a change. We need to support not only our military, but we need to support their spouses. And in order to do that, we can't keep doing the same things that we've been doing. We need to make sure that we are exploring non-traditional ways to share information. That's both in the military and in the civilian community, because we know that reducing access barriers and information gaps really just helps level the playing field for everybody. When everybody's able to know about resources and hear about job opportunities and gain that step up, it's just better for everybody. And then externally, I would say that we need everybody. We need military, we need the civilian community to share our data and the data of our partners, because when you share that data with your networks, new people hear it and new people get excited and want to come along and help solve this issue, take the next step. There's a lot of overlap between our partners and between MSOs and BSOs, But then there's also those one-offs that people have a partner that somebody else doesn't know about. So, each one that we reach just builds a larger and larger collective voice, and that is what we're looking for.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you sometimes. And by the way, those are rings of real lifetime programming right now here at Blue Star Families. So no worries, Carly. I don't heard that tone behind the scenes. So absolutely. And we can all as a community advocate for each other, for everyone. But especially we have designated this summer to create this programming for our Latinx to be a little bit more inclusive, but just also to support our demand for employer partners who are looking for bilingual talent, and what a better way to support underemployment among the military spouse in general. Now, I do want to also highlight another finding, Carly, and if you can break it down for us as well. 27% of military spousal respondents of color are unemployed, but they need or want paid employment and have actively seek work. And I know I see it on a regular basis throughout our very diverse spouse-first community. But in your perspective, why is there such a disparity among our unemployment rates across our military spouse community?
So unfortunately, inequality in this country and disparity is nothing new. And in the U.S., economic inequality continues to be inextricably linked to race and to gender. And so we have these systemic inequities that already present challenges for the Hispanic and Latino population. And then on top of that, military spouse affiliation has its own unique challenges. So you have one set of problems that is compounded by another set of problems, and it just makes finding and keeping and transferring employment even more challenging. To kind of use an analogy from what's currently on the national news, you've seen that the I-95 corridor here on the East Coast is experiencing a little bit of challenge as a section burned and fell. So if I-95, if we think of that as military spouse employment, or as spouse employment in general, on a good day, if you've ever been on 95, it's kind of a rat race. For military spouse employment, let's talk about it like it's summer construction season. Suddenly, all of a sudden, you're navigating to where you want to go, but you might have to take a few detours or you get stuck in traffic. It takes a little bit longer, but hopefully, ultimately, we can find a way to get you there. Well, for Hispanic and Latina spouses, it's kind of like the current situation where the highway, a portion of it is completely gone. So now, in addition to you're dealing with hecticness of the highway in general, now you have to find an alternative route altogether, or perhaps an entirely new mode of transportation. And you're trying to navigate that in a system that wasn't designed for you to be there in the first place. So it's just compounding challenges on top of one another.
That is such a great way for you to portray, the challenges. And thank you so much for breaking it down for us and making it a real perspective and how we can really advocate and just understand better why are there all these disparities within our community. Now, one quick question just before we go, because I know time and you're very busy as we continue to advocate and outreach for the survey, which is currently going on right now. How can this survey be a valuable tool to advocate in positive change for all of our community members? Can you share some specific examples, maybe some policy updates, any current initiatives that we are working on, or maybe externally that you're aware of?
Sure, certainly. So I think the most exciting, very recent thing that I can share is, as you are probably aware, and hopefully your viewers are aware, President Biden signed an executive order this past Friday on advancing economic security for military and veteran spouses, military caregivers, and survivors. And within the language of that executive order are findings specifically from our MFLS data. So I don't know that there's a better example of the importance of MFLS than that. But to add to that, this was the first year data from our Campaign for Inclusion research, the DoD's Equity Action Plan. This was the first year that they specifically mentioned military families and advancing barriers to economic security, which included pursuing enhancements to spousal employment and increased access to childcare on and off base. And then right now, we are currently in the in year 2 of a longitudinal study on our military spouse employment research project, and that we were able to get funding for that from gracious partners USAA, Navy Federal Credit Union, and PenFed Credit Union, excuse me, to be able to do this longitudinal, multifaceted research project that will help us identify what factors lead to positive employment outcomes for military spouses. So that all started from SLS data as well. I could probably continue with more examples, but we'll stick with those 3.
Absolutely, thank you. And then I guess so. Just to wrap it up in a short call to action, we can say just simply take the survey. Take the survey. Toma la encuesta. Take the survey in English or Spanish, whichever works best for you. But of course, we're really calling a call to action to our Hispanic, Latinas, military spouses to please take the survey. And if you are bilingual, most importantly, take the bilingual version of it, the Spanish version of it, because it will help us. How it would help us, Carly, for next year? How can the survey in Espanol help us move the needle a little bit more?
So the more people who take the survey in Spanish, just allows us to provide that voice. So when we write our findings, or when we're collecting all of the data from our surveys, the more people who are able to tell us their specific stories, the more we can advance that story for you. And so we certainly want to include everybody's voice in their preferred language. And so if you are able to take the survey in Spanish, we want to have you take the survey in Spanish, and that way we will use that collectively and advocate specifically for that population of individuals.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carly, for your time. I know you have to run off to another meeting, but we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come and break down a little bit what the survey in general means, excuse me, is what it means to our population, but also how the survey is also identifying some of those it's still communities that we still need to advocate a little bit extra, or maybe emphasize additional programming, such as Verano Bilingue, so that we can continue to advocate and make, create a sense of belonging for everyone. Thank you, Carly.
Thank you.
Dali, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule, especially as we start enjoying the beautiful days out in the summer. Thank you so much for taking the time to come over and introduce yourself and be part of our Verano Bilingue kickoff. Now, could you please introduce yourself and your unique military connection, plus your proud Latina connection as well?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you for having me. So my name is Dali Rivera. I'm a Nicaraguan-born U.S. Army veteran. I served 10 years, and I actually ended up marrying a veteran, a service member then at the time. And I became his caregiver due to multiple injuries. And that has been a unique experience, having served and then having become the caregiver of a veteran. And as far as Latinas, like my Latinidad, I feel like I've had a great experience in the military and outside, because I feel like we just have a unique type of like sazon, when we meet, you usually connect right away with other veterans, but then adding that Latino element is just really, really special and really unique.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And, caregiving, it's a journey, it's a challenge. And I think it's not so much the task or the commitment you take on yourself towards your spouse or the activities. I think is more challenging with dealing with the system, or perhaps the spouse himself or herself to take better care of yourself. But anyway, we're here to really just share a little bit about your experience as a Latina, as a female veteran, which, by the way, thank you so much for your service. I know we just honored female veterans a few days back. Thank you so much for your experience in the Army. And if I may maybe put you on the spotlight, I mean, what drove you to join the Army?
You're gonna laugh about this, but what drove me was that I really think I didn't have what it took for college, and I also wanted to be that rebel girl that did something different. So that's how I ended up in the military. Originally, it was supposed to be 3 years, and it turned out to be 10 years. But I think it was like the best decision that I could have done, because as a Latina, you culturally were not really told to go out and explore and dare to do something different. And then having experienced the military as a Latina was also eye-opening to realizing what challenges we have as Latinas. And ironically, years later in my master's program, I wrote a paper on leadership in the military, specifically for Latinas. And I discovered that there are significantly higher numbers of Latinas that enlist in the military overall, but they are the least likely to retire. And in my situation, I ended up getting out after 10 years because I became a mother, and then my husband by then was injured. So I felt like the best thing for my family and for myself was to get out of the military and tend to just making sure that I was always home and not deployed to take care of my husband and then my two new children. And I find that, I ended up being that statistic from the research that I found for my paper. I prioritized my family in that way, and just decided to get out at 10 years. Would I have loved to have done 20 or more? Absolutely. But, it just turned out the way that it did. I don't regret having ended it at 10, because I feel like I've gotten so much out of it, being a civilian, a veteran, and taking care of my husband. But being a Latina really taught me about the different challenges that we have compared to even other women in the military. It's just really unique because our cultural values have a lot to do with this decision making, as far as our careers go, and of course in our civilian life.
That is very true, which actually brings me to this question, which is, quite often it discussed among all of our military community, but I know among Latinas, sometimes it's very easy sometimes to fall even further with and deal with imposter syndrome, which is huge.
Oh, yeah.
It's huge in our community. I myself have to pinch myself quite often to see if the work or the opportunities where I'm presented, like self-check is like, is this for real, Laura? But in your experience, have you dealt with imposter syndrome among the military, but also as a Latina externally? How do you deal with that and overcome that?
Oh yes, I have always, and even now, I have to remind myself that I have to give myself credit for the things that I have done. And that's always been a challenge. So I don't think that imposter syndrome ever goes away. I think we just learn how to manage it better. But I definitely had it when I was in the military. The imposter syndrome came because I was young. I was also in a male-dominated field. I was a mechanic. And then I became a drill sergeant. Again, you find yourself with a lot of men, and then they also want you to lead a certain way, which is not usually, like, I guess, quote unquote, feminine, or that's not what they desire. They want you to be super aggressive and, stuff that I was like, well, my view is leadership doesn't have to be that way. And, getting out of the military was also, there it was, the civilian, imposter syndrome. And then you look back and you're like, oh, but I did 10 years in the Army. I did all these amazing things. But that's not good enough. I still need like other experience to come out into the civilian world and qualify for all these jobs. And so I wish I would have had someone to remind me of all the things that I'd done, like that it did count, because I did cut myself short when I first left the military, and I was just going for jobs that really I was so overqualified. And it wasn't until years later, now that I have my business, that I realized I was so overqualified. I could have gotten just about any job had I known, what the gold that I held in my experience, and had I also had the confidence and not allowed the imposter syndrome to convince me that I was not good enough for X, Y, or Z.
Absolutely. It's quite interesting how sometimes we ourselves say no to each other first, or to tell each other, to us first, before we get the no's from the employer or the rejection letter. And so that is quite interesting how sometimes our internal process works, but definitely continue to work on things. Now, Dali, I do want to put you back on the spot to see how you were listening with Carly was presenting.
Yeah.
Out of the findings of the survey, what seemed to resonate with you a little bit more? The fact that Latinas in the workplace earn less, or perhaps that we continue to find that 27% of military spouses or partners need in one work, but for some reason or another, it's not happening.
So, I mean, everything that she said is not new to me because I study this type of information. But what I realized is that the military has not taken advantage of the bilingual skills that a lot of us Latinos have, whether we are military or dependents. I think that there are some great programs out there, but they're just not tapping into that bilingualism, which is so, so important. And I can't even give you an idea of like how, what suggestions to tell DOD to do, but I know that there's definitely a lot there that could be done. And I think that it is undervalued. I remember when I went in the Army in '97, the first few years of my service, I had the opportunity to take that language test, and based on my score, I got paid a monthly stipend. Then that was taken away, and I thought it was really unfair. The other thing is that the test or the exam that they use is very, what's the right word to say? It is not with the realistic language. Go based on Spaniards, the Spaniard, Castellano, Spanish, which is unrealistic. Here in the United States, we do not use, that type of Spanish. And I feel like that disqualifies a lot of us. And it's something that is deeply rooted in racism because, Spaniards tend to be more Caucasian and Latinos here are more darker skin. So that's a whole other discussion. But I think that little things like that in the military need to be taken into account, reviewed, analyzed, and fix it, because you eliminate a lot of people who speak Spanish very well, but if they weren't able to pass that exam, then they lost an opportunity. So when people say, oh, there's no systematic discrimination in place, that is an example of one of the many systematic, methods that are used to eliminate opportunities for Latinos. The other thing is that when we come out of the service, most of the jobs that are offered, they're all, of course, English based. So it would be nice for the military to have a list like what you're doing with Blue Star Careers, right? Where you're actually offering these jobs where you can use your other language, whether it's Spanish, French, or whatever other language. I think that it's just a huge asset that has not been taken into account and is not being benefited from.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. There's a lot of systems in place that currently need to be revised to definitely advocate and advance, not necessarily to show them as a negative. It just maybe perhaps leadership has not gotten around to update things. I know in the military or just example in government, everything takes a little bit of extra time to update. But we hopefully by continuing to just talk about it, by taking the survey, which is take the survey and then talking about it and creating programs as this one, like which is, Verano Bilingue, and I call it Verano Bilingue 3.0. And the reason I call it 3.0, I know there's always like 1.0, 2.0, maximums. 3.0 is because we're going to be counting the years of how many times or how many years we are offering this exclusive programming for our Latinx military spouses here through Blue Star Careers. And thank you, Dali, for observing and watching. Yes, we do this throughout the summer, not to exclude anybody also whatsoever, not at all. We actually share also bilingual opportunities for other members. Maybe they want to take an extra language in Spanish, or they want to watch a webinar, or just pick up an extra skill. You're all welcome. We have additional services and programming for that as well. But this one, it just concentrates a little bit more in making sure that our Latinx community is just getting the resources that are out there, internally or externally throughout the outside of the military, that also support bilingual talent. And so with that, Dali, what is in your personal experience will be one, takeaway that you've been able to leverage your military experience and your bilingual skills to find meaningful employment or launch your business?
Mm-hmm. Oh my, resourcefulness. I think every single military person can agree that, because we find ourselves in so many situations where we lack something to do our jobs, we get super creative. And I used to underestimate the power of me being creative enough to come up with other resources. The beautiful thing is, I got out in 2007, so a lot has changed with social media and the internet. And, if you can just network and ask as many questions as possible to get the resources that you need, you will find them. I mean, you can now ask the craziest questions, and somebody has either thought of it or asked it, and they have maybe part of the question or all of it. So don't underestimate your resourcefulness. Just go for it. Ask your question no matter how crazy it seems. You'll be surprised.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dali, for your insightful and for sharing your experience as a Latina, also as a female veteran, and of course, professional experience out in the workplace, and founder of Dali Talks, which anyone who is interested in getting connected and getting to know more about Dali Talks, tell us a little bit, just briefly, a little bit about Dali Talks and how we can connect with you and maybe collaborate with this particular impactful work that you do externally outside of the military.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I created Dali Talks and a wonderful, robust program called the Diversity and Anti-Bullying Academy, which is a series of workshops and online courses for parents to be able to help their children who are experiencing bullying, or if they feel like their child is a target or could be a target. The suicide rate is crazy in the United States for children. That's a second leading cause of death in youth. And a lot of it has to do with, bullying, which impacts your mental health. So I work with organizations that want to bring me in and provide this information to their employees, staff, teachers, or parents. And I also work with the parents directly. And you can reach me anywhere on social media at Dali Talks.
Absolutely. And it's not, only for obviously Latinx or military communities, for everyone, because bullyism does not discriminate. It comes across on all communities. So thank you so much, Dali, for that and for supporting us and sharing a little bit more about your experience. And then we're going to continue to talk more about Verano Bilingue. We're going to go right now and view and get some greetings from some of our previous participants and JEFAs. If you didn't know, Dali, we had JEFAs every year, which are professional military spouses with a Latino connection who have participated during our networking outs. And we're going to go right now and talk a little bit with them, but also get some greetings on how they're doing, an update, and get some more support. What can we do internally this summer to get more involved with Verano Bilingue? So thank you, Dali. Stay tuned right there.
Thank you.
Sonia, welcome back. Welcome, JEFA Sonia, all the way from Arizona. Thank you so much for being here, taking time out of your busy schedule to support this Verano Bilingue once again. And so, by the way, what does it feel like to be back as a JEFA once more for Verano Bilingue and Blue Star Careers?
Amazing. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I love this. This is very dear to my heart. I am not only a military spouse, but a Latina. I'm Colombian, born and raised, right? So I know how important it is to have this support system, right? In organizations such as Blue Star Families to offer that connection, that support to our community.
Awesome. So then would you mind also reintroducing yourself, your unique military connection, and of course, your Latina connection, if you feel comfortable with that, so that our audience and our Latinas who are watching us today can actually maybe self-identify, but also follow up with you.
Absolutely. So my name is Sonia Vasquez. I am the Employer Engagement Coordinator, Skill Bridge Coordinator, and Military Spouse Lead for the Arizona Coalition for Military Families, a nonprofit organization that supports our military community in a lot of different areas, right? Not only in employment opportunities and connections, but also mental health, financial assistance, legal assistance, basic needs. I mean, you name it, and we have the resources. And that's why we partner with organizations such as Blue Star Families to make sure that we connect our military community to those resources. I am a Latina as well. I was born and raised in Colombia. I came to the United States when I was 13 years old. So most of my childhood, I was in Colombia, right? So coming into a different country, learning a different language was not easy. I definitely faced a lot of barriers, but having that support system with my family, I had a lot of cousins in Florida that definitely helped, bridge that gap and support me throughout that transition into a different country was very helpful. And that's where I understood that having those connections is so important. Once I joined, or not joined the military, but married the military, right? Once I married the military, I had to learn another language, which is the military language. And it's very different, right? Because not only the acronyms, but how to navigate the military community is very different than the civilian sector. So really understanding the importance of connection and networking is so important for us as well to succeed in our career, but in our personal lives too. So my husband has been in the military for the past 20 plus years. And we've been in so many different locations, different places. We've had to reinvent ourselves so many different times, right? Not only me, but my children too. It's the entire family that transitions, right? So, but I always say that having that support system, that network, to go back to really just connect with is so important to make our life in those new locations a lot easier.
Absolutely. And that's really what we are trying to here to reemphasize and, continues to reintroduce throughout our Latinx and Hispanic Latinas community by doing this third year of Verano Bilingue bilingual summer programming, which is really intended to include everyone, even our community that may not be necessarily bilingual. We also sparkle some love and all their personal development programming, maybe some courses and some additional trainings, but other job opportunities for everyone so that everyone can feel included. But Sonia, in regarding to, the trajectories and the reinventing and all those things, the military spouses, especially you still active duty, that go through the process. I mean, in my case, we're retired, so it's a little bit different, sort of the challenges that get experienced, but a lot of veteran spouses. But, you have had a very successful career at the Arizona Coalition for Military Families, Be Connected. And so as a professional military spouse and as a bilingual Latina, growing your career in the military environment, tell me what are some of those hurdles that you have experienced or how you have overcome those so that other Latinas like us, like you are watching, they can maybe perhaps self-identify with your experience.
Absolutely. So not really connecting early on. So I think one of my biggest, I don't want to say mistakes, right? Because I believe that we always learn from all those hurdles or barriers, right? But when I married my spouse early on, I was a military spouse, but I really wasn't very involved in our military community. And I felt very disconnected. So what happened is that I try to do everything myself and not really reach out to my network, reach out to my community for that assistance, for that connection. And I learned that it wasn't until my third duty station with my spouse that I started getting involved. Right. I had children. I wanted them to get involved. I was getting involved. I started to network. I started to learn different resources, different kinds of opportunities. That's when I actually was able to get connected to job opportunities as well. And then resources to help me upskill myself, to help me get connected and to help provide that assistance or bridge that gap so I can then grow professionally in my career. It was actually a military spouse that, introduced me into the previous opportunity that I had before I joined the military, which it was working at a military installation, helping and assisting those service members that were transitioning out of the military, veterans and family members. And that's where I got connected with the coalition, Be Connected, because I used to utilize their resources. And I remember that when I joined the coalition, or when I learned about the coalition, that's when this whole new world opened, right? I'm here like, whoa, there's so many resources out there. And now I feel like it's my job to connect with those military spouses that feel isolated, that feel like they don't know where to turn, and then provide them with that assistance or that connection. Because I think a lot of the times it's not that the opportunities or the resources are not out there. I feel like it's just that we don't know. And when we don't know, we feel like there's nothing out there, but there's so many great organizations out there that support our military community, Blue Star Families, Hiring Our Heroes. There's the USO, right? the Arizona Coalition for Military Families. There's so many out there that just getting yourself out there and connecting can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. And, you know, and we all sort of collaborate and cross-reference each other's when it comes to services. I mean, obviously, you know, we're today, it's official. We're doing Verano Bilingue announcement of third year. You being part of our programming. Last year you participated, you were a JEFA, and we were very thankful that you continue to stay engaged with us. And, you know, and not only that, but continue to elevate your career trajectory through the day-to-day work that you do in Arizona and for all the military connected in that area. Now, Sonia, something I just asked Dali, you know, a few minutes ago is imposter syndrome is huge within our military spouse community, but also among our Latina professionals. Or as we continue, as you mentioned, you know, sometimes we isolate each other or we isolate ourselves from the services. We don't want to get involved. But, you know, in your experience, what tools, what resources could be a good option to sort of stay or combat a little bit more of the imposter syndrome effect that we all tend to experience?
Absolutely. I feel like that is something that, you know, as you mentioned, as Latinas, we face, right? Because we're coming into this new world with a different language, a different way of life. As military spouses, again, another language, right? Another different path, but also as women, we face that a lot too, right? So we have all these different things that we feel like they are barriers. And I feel like one of the things that I do with myself is try to remind myself and rewire my brain and telling myself that I am capable. If that person did it, I can do it as well. And my mom always used to say, and she has always been such a huge supporter, right? And someone that I so much look up to, because she not only was someone that was a professional in Colombia, she came to the United States and she learned a different skill. She went back to school. She figured it out. And I always say that everything in life is figure outable, right? Like you're able to figure it out. There's always a way. And just having that mentality, utilizing that tool is so important, because the imposter syndrome is always going to be there. It's just reminding yourself and catching yourself when it's happening that it's really going to click and say, no, you know what? No. It's put it out there, put it out in the universe. You're here for a reason. You got this position for a reason and you earned it. So let's just make sure that we continue to grow and continue to go higher.
I love it. Thank you so much. And let's go higher with, of course, with Sonia, with JEFA Sonia in the Arizona Coalition. In all the programming that we're definitely going to be laying out for you for the rest of the summer. Verano Bilingue, bilingual summer, however you want to refer to it, really it's just an intent for us in our community to get together and to build that sense of belonging and to build that, you know, community, but also connect with each other so that we can continue to empower. So, Ms. Sonia, any last words of wisdom as we take off? And, you know, I know you have a busy schedule for the rest of the summer, the day. And so congratulations on all of your great work, but give us any last words of wisdom as we, you know, check out from this particular segment with you.
You know, I just want to say thank you so much for having me here. It's always a pleasure to connect with not only you, but our community, our Latina community, our military spouse community. And I would say the best thing, you know, my biggest advice is to connect, you know, network and to put yourself out there. We're always here to support, right? I always like to say this, that, you know, as military spouses like to support each other. So connect with us through LinkedIn, on Facebook, all the other great platforms, attend all these great workshops, right? Because that's how you're going to network. That's how you're going to connect and then successfully navigate your career throughout your spouse's military.
Absolutely. And then one last thing, Sonia, is of course, it's a reminder that take the survey, Toma la encuesta, which this year the survey is also available in Spanish. So when you go and take the survey, you have the option to say it English or Spanish. And then you can, if you are bilingual, you can speak and take it in Spanish. Please take it in Spanish. The more voices we get, you know, added towards the surveys, the challenges, the good, the bad, and everything else, the more we can continue to advocate and offer programming like Verano Bilingue or more the following years to be on. So thank you so much, Sonia, for all of your support as always. And we really look forward to connecting with you and hosting another JEFA night, and you, of course, leading it for our community. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Oh, that was such a powerful statement that we just heard from our panel. Of course, we had heard from Carly, and then, of course, from Dali, and then once again, of course, from Sonia. So thank you so much for all of you who are continuing to watch and support. Please continue to tell me where you're watching, post your questions, and let us know how we can best support you. And if you think there's somebody out there that needs to listen to this and needs to hear, or who is a bilingual military spouse, or just looking to build that sisterhood, that really sense of community, please tag us, pay it forward. Remember to share this webinar. And so in case you're wondering, well, what is, joint personal development and have a networking night? What is this all entail? What is this going to be coordinating? So Verano Bilingue really is a series for the next 3 months. And then we wrap it up actually during Welcome Week, which is for us is also in September. And actually that also happens to be part of the Hispanic month. So it all kind of works very, very strategically for us to be able to support this and create a sense of community. But Verano Bilingue, really what it is what you can expect is for the next 3 months, the 4th week of every month during June, July, and August, we're going to conduct 3 different webinars, workshops, sessions via Zoom, where military spouses, bilingual community can actually join in so that you can have a little more personalized touch. And really what you can expect is personal development and learning options for bilingual talent, resume support and interviewing tips, LinkedIn profile and connections. And then, of course, on Thursdays, you can join us to have our networking nights, which is, again, just a sense to create a sense of community, build more connections on LinkedIn, and then empower each other internally within the military, but also externally. Learn where are some of those resources externally that support Latinas, Hispanic, Latinx community members where you can utilize your bilingual talent. But also we're going to identify who are those employer partners who are hiring currently for bilingual talent and have bilingual needs. Now, amiga, if you cannot make it, you work, or for some reason, just things don't work out for you, because it is going to be the workshops for personal development will be during the workday, during the daytime, and you cannot make it, that's okay. Meet us in their neighborhood, where every Friday we have bilingual talent, where we share the latest career opportunities that are available, again, through our employer partners. And then we're building a list of community allies and supporters that also welcome bilingual talent from all languages and all community partners as well. And then we'll also have a resource library section in Espanol that slowly will be building and engaging with you throughout the summer. So we have many options for you. So be sure that you are staying connected with us and meet us and ask us, most importantly, and connect with us so that we can continue to support you. So that's all we have to show with you and talk to you about Verano Bilingue. Thank you so much for your support and for watching. I'd like to properly say thank you, gracias, Comcast Military, for being our premier sponsor of bilingual programming for this year. And this is Verano Bilingue 3.0. Thank you so much for all of your support. Thank you for watching. And for those of you, if you have any questions, if you'd like to get involved, would like to be our ally and be part of our Verano community all year long, please join us, because the community doesn't just stop growing here during the summer. We continue our work all year long, where every military spouse, regardless of their background, is included, and we provide resources no matter where the military takes them. So, but once again, want to remind you to please take the survey, toma la encuesta. It is crucial for all of us to take the survey and to continue to resonate the challenges, the good, the bad, but also all the great things that need to be advocated, so that all have a really good purpose in our military lifestyle. Whether you're still active duty or retiring, we all connected and we're all in this together. So toma la encuesta, take the survey. We need more Hispanic, Spanish, Latino voices to take the encuesta. So if you are bilingual, take the survey in Spanish if you can, because that will really help our purpose and will help our work get ahead furthermore. So thank you so much for watching. We look forward to supporting you once again in the neighborhood, or meet us, of course, at a spot for your virtual community. Thank you one more time.